He was on a date with a seemingly calm woman when, out of nowhere, she made a shocking confession.
I hope they rot in hell.
She had brutally murdered her elderly and ill father 4 years ago.
I wouldn't want what I seen in the papers, what they did to that man.
Most people would have dismissed such a claim, but not this man. He immediately reported it to the police, and what they uncovered that day left the entire nation stunned.
Just a nice guy, quiet.
Welcome back to my channel. I may not have many followers, but every single comment from you feels like a ray of hope.
It is a disturbing story. A father dies, and then 4 years later, his daughters are charged with his murder.
91-year-old Anthony Tomaselli lived in Pinellas County, Florida, with his 2 daughters, the older one, Linda Roberts, and the younger, Mary Beth Tomaselli. He was gravely ill, and one night, both sisters decided to end his suffering through what they claimed was a mercy killing. But, in reality, it wasn't just their father's pain they were trying to end. It was the money sitting in his bank account that tempted them, much like the apple in the Garden of Eden, leading them to commit the unthinkable. On the night of May 6th, 2015, the sisters drugged Anthony with a sleeping aid mixed into his drink. When that didn't work, they resorted to suffocating him with a pillow, and eventually, they held his nose shut until he stopped breathing. Paramedics arrived to find Anthony unresponsive. Initially, his death wasn't considered suspicious. Authorities believe it was due to his age and declining health. However, everything changed when Linda confessed to the murder during a casual conversation on a date. The man she confided in reported her to the police, who then conducted an undercover audio surveillance operation. It wasn't long before both sisters admitted to the crime in their own words. The detectives brought in Linda Roberts for questioning. Let's dive into the interrogation.
I was looking at a report. So your father's deceased, right?
Yes.
Okay, can you tell me a little bit about that?
About what?
About what happened? What happened?
What happened to my father?
Mm-hmm.
The doctor, his companion died 3 weeks prior to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he had dementia.
Okay.
And he was going to go into Brookdale.
Okay.
My brothers and sisters and I all decided he was going to Brookdale.
Okay.
So he didn't want to go there, but he had to go there. It was a beautiful place.
Right.
And my sister and I moved in after Shirley died.
Linda's story begins to unravel as she recounts the night her father died. She paints a picture of a seemingly peaceful evening before everything went wrong. She explains how, in the early hours of the morning, she and her sister found their father unresponsive and attempted CPR. But deep down, she knew it wasn't an accident. The police were soon on the scene, and the truth was beginning to emerge.
He said, my dad told me and my sister, he said, I don't feel good. He says, I'm going to lay down on the couch. And they had 2 rockers on either end. He said, would you mind staying up while I lay down here and sleep?
Okay.
I said, of course, sure we will.
Mm-hmm.
So he went to sleep, snoring away. And it was probably about 2, 3 in the morning. My sister said, why don't we go lay in Dad's bed and get some rest? He's sleeping, he's quiet. So we said, okay. So we get up in the morning at 6 o'clock, about 6 o'clock, and I walked right past him, went into the kitchen to make some coffee, and my sister got up and she went over and checked on him, and she yelled to me, something's wrong, Dad is not responding to me. So I went over there and I checked for a pulse. I felt a pulse, but wasn't thinking my father had a pacemaker in there, so of course he's going to have a pulse.
As Linda recalls that night, she's visibly shaken, recounting how she checked her father for a pulse and then called for help. But her actions and the way she avoided responsibility told a different story. The police were quick to notice the inconsistencies in her account, and it was clear that Linda was not being fully honest with them. There was much more to the story than she was letting on.
But in that instance, you're not even thinking. So I called Dr. Mazer on the phone, and I said, my dad is something's wrong, he's not breathing. In the meantime, I told my sister to call 911. So she called 911, they came, and I was doing CPR on him. And they came in and they said, I don't remember the exact words, but they said, you need to get off your father now, we're going to continue. And I said, continue CPR on him, please. So anyway, they kind of lifted me off, put me on a chair and said, you have to sit and you have to be quiet, we're going to work on your father. So they rolled him over, and
See, the couch or on the floor at this point?
I think they just rolled him over on the couch.
Okay, continue.
And they pulled up his shirt, and he was all black and blue. So when you're deceased, your blood, obviously, it's not circulating. But he still had the pulse going, but that was the pacemaker making the pulse work.
Right.
So they get all his pills out of the cabinet that he takes, and they said he was short on his sleeping pills. So I said, well, I took him to the doctor several times, to Dr. Zion, and my father was very insistent that he was going to take 2 sleeping pills a night.
Linda tries to explain away the strange circumstances, including her father's bruising and the missing pills. She says her father insisted on taking 2 sleeping pills every night, even though the doctors warned against it. When the police questioned her sister about the missing medication, they were already growing suspicious of the sister's actions.
And he told Dr. Zion that. And Dr. Zion looked at me and he said, and my dad said, I don't care, I'm taking 2 sleeping pills every night. So Dr. Zion said, so when the police said they told my sister we're short, they made my sister count the pills, I said, just call Dr. Zion, you'll straighten the whole thing out, because it's noted in his computer that he was taking 2 pills a night.
What happened? Is he buried somewhere, or?
Is my dad buried somewhere?
Yeah, where?
He's interned at Sylvan.
Abbey.
Yeah.
Okay. You said you have kids, right?
1 daughter.
1 daughter.
As the questioning moves forward, Linda's nerves become more apparent. She's trying to hold it together, but it's clear she's struggling. The officers are gently pressing her for more details, trying to get her to open up about the real events of that fateful night. But Linda's hesitation speaks volumes. It's obvious she's hiding something crucial.
What do you usually, people make mistakes, and I get that, okay? And when your daughter makes a mistake, you want her to be honest with you, right?
Of course.
Of course, and that's the way you raise her, right? So if she does something or she did a mistake, you want her to, part of it, you learn from your mistakes.
As the investigation continues, the detectives are piecing together the dark truth behind her father's death. Linda's story is beginning to crack, and the evidence is starting to close in.
So I don't think you're not being very honest with me right now.
What do you mean?
The investigators were playing with a haunting question. Why did these 2 daughters take such a drastic step in their father's final days?
You know that that's not what happened with your father. So I want you to tell me again, from the beginning, what happened with your father.
I don't understand what you're talking about.
The story, I'm going to lay it out for you. The story that you just provided to him is not what happened to your dad.
What happened to my dad?
I want you to go back and walk through this one more time. You need to pay attention to what's going on here, okay? What you said happened to your dad is not what happened to your dad. You understand what I'm trying to tell you?
Not especially. What has changed that didn't happen to my father?
Linda Roberts continues to stick to her story as she deflects the police's attempts to break her down. She claims she called Dr. Z to clarify her father's medication dosage, trying to paint the picture that nothing was out of the ordinary. But the police are determined to get to the truth, knowing that what she's saying doesn't add up.
Okay.
So this is what I want you to think about it real hard right now, okay? Because your father, that's not exactly how it happened, okay? And you know that, okay? So I'm going to give you, because when I'm asking you questions, I already know the answer to it, okay? And right now, you are, I get it. You're nervous. You're keeping this in, and you're going with the same story that you had told the other officer when they originally came. But that's not what happened.
You've been doing an investigation, and that's not what happened. And you know that's not what happened.
As the tension rises, the investigator presses Linda, suggesting that her story about her father's death doesn't match the evidence they have. He urges her to come clean, telling her he already knows the truth. Linda tries to maintain control, but the officers are closing in on the inconsistencies in her statements.
We're paying you the compliment of being upfront with you. You need to pay us the same compliment and tell us what actually happened.
Who is giving you information, other information?
Ma'am, I want to hear from you, okay? And I want to talk to you about it, okay? So I know what happened, and I'm giving you the opportunity right now to talk to us and tell us your side of the story.
This is unbelievable.
The police are offering Linda an opportunity to tell her side of the story, but she's not forthcoming. The detective pushes further, asking her to explain what really happened, but Linda's reluctance to cooperate is clear. The more she withholds, the more suspicious her behavior becomes.
I agree.
Does my sister know about this?
I know what your sister did.
You know
I know
what my
what
sister did?
I know what she did, and I know what you did. So right now, it's not to continue to tell us the story that you're telling me is not right. I get your father was sick. He was ill. People make mistakes, okay? And I know everything, okay?
From a trustworthy person, you know everything?
Who's not trustworthy?
Who's not trustworthy?
Somebody obviously told you something that could possibly not be trustworthy. The person is not a trustworthy.
Linda, caught her lies, tries to steer the conversation in another direction, mentioning a man named Anthony Marr, whom she claims has given the police misinformation. But the detective isn't fooled and confronts her about her ongoing relationship with him, questioning her about why she continues to associate with someone she claims is untrustworthy.
So who is that person you're talking about? What are you talking about? You keep saying this person's not trustworthy. What person do you have in mind?
A certain person that
Well, I know, but what is that person's name?
Anthony Marsh.
Then why is he not trustworthy?
Well, you can look up his criminal background and see that he's been in a lot of trouble.
Okay, and what's your relationship with him?
I am single, I was seeing him for a short time. I was seeing him.
And when did that start and when did that stop?
It started in probably July of last year, and I still continue to have seen him.
Linda tries to deflect, insisting that the truth is not what the police are claiming. She attempts to distance herself from the situation, but the detective cuts through her defenses, pointing out that he already knows what happened and that the time for games is over.
You see him on a relatively routine basis, right?
Well, routine, but I don't know what you call routine.
Okay, I'm not going to split hairs with you, routine, but the definition of, right, you see him frequently.
Linda's sister is brought up again, and the police continue to press her about the bond they share. The investigator suggests that since they're so close, her sister might have confessed to her or shared details of what really happened that night. Linda, however, remains evasive and refuses to admit anything.
My sister and I are bonded together, yes.
Correct. And you guys share a bond that is something that no one else can ever share. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you said here that your sister is very trusting to you. Right?
Yes.
I know exactly what happened that night. So this is your opportunity.
You have to tell me who told you something different happened that night. Who told you something different happened? There has to be somebody that told you something.
I know about the drink.
But who told you?
I'm just gonna, okay, let me just walk you through this a little bit, just to bring you up to speed. Okay, the conversation that you had with Mr. Marsh,
Yes.
we were listening to that conversation. Okay?
Okay.
So we can cut to the chase that there was no joking about this.
Now, the police dropped the bombshell. They've been listening to Linda's conversation with Anthony Marr, and they know everything. The confession is all but certain. But Linda continues to deny any wrongdoing, clearly uneasy about the evidence that's stacking up against her.
I have a crystal clear clarity, so you can read between the lines, okay? I actually had the same clarity with your sister
You talked to her?
about an hour ago. So I'm going to tell you one more time. You're not going to come out on the end of this in a very good fashion because you're telling the truth about what happened. We try to give you ample opportunity to tell what happened, but now you know that I know what happened.
I wanted to know who told it.
I just told you that.
Okay.
So we're going to cut through the BS. Agreed?
Agreed.
Okay. Now answer his questions and let's move forward with this. Okay? Do you understand?
I understand, but you don't have to be rough with me.
Ma'am, I've given you 3 or 4 opportunities to tell the truth, and we were very upfront with you, and you're not being upfront with us. He said, I'm going to be very upfront with you about what happened, and you kind of disrespected him a little bit by not doing that. I'm just trying to put us on the right path here. Do you understand that?
Okay.
We will be fine, but I can't have you wandering off the reservation. Do you understand?
The investigator continues to break down Linda's story, giving her a chance to come clean. He emphasizes that honesty will be her best option, but Linda still clings to her narrative, unsure of what the police know or how much evidence they've gathered.
So now let's walk through this again.
So talk to us a little bit now.
Okay.
Tell me
My
the truth.
sister and I were lying in bed, and my father had dementia. He was calling both me and my sister by my mother's name. I knew he was dying because he had this mass in his lung, cancer. And she said to me, she held my hand and she said, I can't remember the exact words, but you can't let Dad suffer like this. And we were both crying. And so she said, can we euthanize him some way to put him out of his misery?
Linda begins to crack as the detective confronts her with the truth. She reluctantly starts to admit the grim reality of the situation, revealing that her sister had suggested euthanizing their father to end his suffering. The weight of the confession hangs in the air as Linda slowly begins to admit her role in the tragic death.
And I said, well, he takes his double sleeping pills, so we could give him a few more sleeping pills, and he would just go to sleep.
With the pressure mounting, Linda starts to reveal the truth. Her sister had suggested euthanizing their father, and together, they made the decision to end his life.
Whose idea was that?
I don't know whose idea it was particularly. My sister and my father had been fighting terribly, and that night, and my sister went home to her house, and they had very, very harsh words the night before.
What kind of harsh words?
As Linda talks about her father's last night, she shifts the blame toward her sister, saying it was her idea to give him extra sleeping pills. She recounts the evening, describing a volatile argument between her sister and their father, as though it were a catalyst for the events that would soon unfold.
He was calling her not nice names, saying that I mean, it's hard to remember exactly, but they were yelling. They had a yelling match at each other.
Okay.
So she did have an anger at that time.
Okay. So then what happened?
So I felt very bad for my father that he was suffering so bad. He was in pain, he couldn't breathe, he was having labor breathing. And so we took him for a ride for the beach. He always wanted to go to the beach. And then we brought him home, and she took his sleeping pills.
Despite the disturbing nature of the conversation, Linda speaks without remorse. The sisters had apparently planned their father's death, and Linda continues to rationalize the actions as a form of mercy, making it clear that they both felt justified in what they did, despite the moral and legal implications.
He opened his eyes, but then he closed them immediately after he opened them. And my sister said, he's obviously not, it's not working. And
He's not dead?
Yeah, he had not died, right. And
How was he acting during this? Just everything was normal, or was he off kilter? Did it have any effect on him at all, or anything?
oh yeah, he was semi-conscious, I would say.
Understood.
So my sister and I both said, well, we've started euthanizing him.
Understand.
We have to finish it now.
As Linda recalls the actions that led to her father's death, she mentions using a washcloth to block his airway after he had been drugged. She describes the moments with eerie detachment, mentioning his struggle and eventual death, yet there's no visible emotional response from her.
Okay, and what'd you do?
So we just got a hand washcloth.
Who got the hand washcloth?
I believe I did,
Okay.
but I'm not 100% sure. Because
Where did it come from?
the bathroom.
Okay.
And she held his nose,
Mm-hmm. And what'd you do?
and I put the washcloth in his mouth and
To block the airway?
blocked the airway. And it was just...
Did he move around? Was he trying to fight it a little bit?
He acted like he had to go to the bathroom, is what the main thing I remember about it.
Okay.
And he urinated.
Did anyone hold his hands?
I did not hold his hands.
Did your sister hold his hands?
She may have.
To stop him from fighting or anything?
He wasn't fighting too much because he was drugged from the sleeping
Okay.
pills.
But there was some movements there.
He did move his hands.
Okay, that's what we're asking. Okay.
All right, so
And she was holding his nose.
Linda's recount of the death of her father becomes even more unsettling when she mentions his pacemaker, which had kept his pulse alive longer than she expected. The lack of remorse in her voice is chilling as she describes her father's last moments, stating she didn't realize he was still alive until it was too late.
He stopped breathing, but he still had a pulse. But I didn't realize he had a pacemaker. I did realize it then, that it took me a while to realize why he still had a pulse, because he had a pacemaker in.
So then at that time when you realized once he had died, what did you do? What did you guys do at that time? Because what time did this happen at night? Was it in the middle of the night?
Probably towards the middle of the night, yeah.
Okay. Was there anyone else in the house?
Yes, my niece.
Okay.
She was in the other bedroom.
All right. What did you guys do to her?
Well, we didn't do anything to her. She asked for a sleeping pill because she was having a lot of anxiety.
And what kind of sleeping pill did you give it to her?
Yes, I gave her one of my Ambien.
Now, The questioning shifts to the aftermath of the death. Linda speaks of her niece's presence in the house and how she, too, was drugged to ease her anxiety. The officers are beginning to see the full extent of what happened that night, as Linda's account becomes more incriminating by the minute.
Prior to doing the washcloth, you used a pillow, and it didn't work.
Well, that I don't remember, honestly, using a pillow. That, honest to God, I do not remember using a pillow. I'm honest with you about that. I don't remember ever saying I used a pillow. We used a pillow.
No, not.
Not do you remember saying it, do you remember the incident in which you used the pillow? That's different. That's a different question.
I don't remember using a pillow. I just remember getting the washcloth.
Well, because you tried the pillow first.
I don't remember, I honestly do not remember using a pillow.
Okay.
I don't remember a pillow being used.
But you did, so when he was laying on the couch, okay, and he opened his eyes, and when you went to get the washcloth, where did you get it again?
His bathroom, the master bathroom.
And where was your sister when this was going on?
She was with him alone.
Was he out of it, or was he trying to get up, or?
No, he didn't try to get up. He moved his arms. I remember that. That I remember.
Now, is it true that he did not want to go to that group home, or the?
Correct.
Linda's explanation of the death, as well as the actions afterward, raises more questions. She talks about her father's reluctance to enter a care facility, and the officers press her on whether this emotional burden played a role in their decision to end his life. But Linda continues to claim it was an act of mercy.
And was it a burden watching your dad? Because
No,
you guys had to spend so much time going there?
No, that was nothing to do with being a burden. He was going to be in a beautiful place. He had the insurance that covered it.
But he didn't want to go there.
They were going to have to put him eventually, when he got there, they were going to put him, I'm sure, in the Alzheimer's hospital.
He didn't like it, is what I'm saying. Whether it was the best thing for him or not, he personally did not like it.
He was begging a lady, Shirley's niece, who was known to be on crack cocaine, he was begging her to stay with him and take care of her when we knew she was on crack cocaine.
No, I understand this. But the long and the short of it is that he was resistant to go in there. Regardless if it was the best thing for him, all these other collateral matters, he was resistant to go in there. Is that correct?
He was resistant because he did not have his mind.
I understand, but we're just walking through this. I'm just saying,
Right.
I'm not saying that it wasn't the best thing for him. We're not getting into any of that. I understand where you thought it was, and maybe it was. I'm just saying he personally was resistant to it for whatever variety of reasons.
As the interrogation continues, Linda reflects on her decision to help end her father's life. Despite her awareness that what she did was illegal, she continues to rationalize it as a form of euthanasia, showcasing a disturbing level of self-justification.
I have no idea.
I had no idea.
It was that more likely it was going to be fatal. Okay,
fatal.
that's what I'm trying to say. Okay.
And he was in such misery and mentally so out of it that you know the rest of the story.
My guess is, let me ask you this, you must have been torn about this. I mean, you know,
I was terribly torn about it.
I understand, you have your father that's there and he's suffering, but you know ultimately this was not proper or not lawful, let's just put it that way. You're a smart person.
The detectives probe deeper into Linda's thought process, questioning whether she truly believed her actions were lawful. Her responses reveal a troubling disconnection from the gravity of what she's confessed.
At the time, I felt I was euthanizing my father and helping him.
Take the morality out of it.
Anthony told me, no, it was not lawful.
You don't, let me ask you this, you don't know independently of Anthony telling you that whether that was right for him or was it morally right or anything. I'm just saying lawfully, you had to know that that was not lawful. It was legal to do that.
No, I guess it is not legal to do that.
Right.
The detectives confront Linda about the legality of her actions. She attempts to justify the killing of her father by referring to it as euthanasia. However, the officers make it clear that what they did was not lawful, leading to a tense moment where Linda tries to rationalize her actions further.
You had to know that that was not lawful. It was legal to do that.
No, I guess it is not legal to do that.
Right. Because if it was legal to do that, you would have came out and just told us what happened, and you didn't do that. You knew there had to be a downside to this.
Already told me that it was not legal to do what we did. I felt I euthanized him and put him on the sick leave.
I understand.
have nothing else to say.
No, I understand. But that's because you saw your dad was suffering. I totally understand that. But if you take that part of it out, the act of just doing that is not lawful, is what I'm trying to say. This is where we're at. That's why there's a problem.
Okay.
Okay. That's all I'm saying, just so you know.
Let me ask you this. Did you guys get an inheritance or anything from your father?
Linda's responses become more defensive as the conversation shifts toward the inheritance her family received after her father's death. She insists that money wasn't the motivating factor for what happened, but the officers press her, clarifying that each sibling received a significant sum. This becomes a crucial moment as they dig deeper into the possible motives.
We all three got inheritance.
And how much did you get?
Myself,
Yes.
about $110,000.
You got 110?
Split evenly.
Between the three of you,
Yes. I was
you, your sister, and your brother.
Yes, I was the power of attorney.
So how much did you personally get out of?
I got no more than my brother and sister. Everything was split evenly.
And it was 110 split 3 ways.
About that.
Okay.
And it was his house that sold his brother.
And then you got his house that sold.
I didn't get it. It was split evenly between the
Okay,
three.
so you had the house, you guys split the house in 3, and then 110,000? Is that?
Maybe I'm misunderstanding. Did you get 100? Did you each get 110,000 apiece? Is that what you're saying? Am I clear on that, or?
About. I have.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just saying, I think we're misunderstanding that you didn't split 110,000. You each got 110,000. Is that what we're?
About that.
Roughly. I'm just saying, just so we're clear on what we're talking about. Okay. Now let me ask you, what's your brother's name again?
Charles Thomas.
Now, what does he know about what we just talked about here? Does he know any of this, or does he just think this just went the way you had portrayed it? Nobody in the family knows, your sister knows, but that's it.
Detectives start to connect the dots, asking Linda about the events of the morning after her father's death. She claims they told the family he passed peacefully in his sleep, but the details she provides begin to raise red flags.
Let me ask you this, and I know this may be, are you, basically, when you came and told us this right now, I know you were driving, are you under any influence at all?
Illegal drugs?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
I never take illegal drugs.
Okay. All right. And
I take my heart medication, I take my thyroid medication, I take my mild tranquilizer that is prescribed by an MD. I never have taken illegal drugs.
Okay. And also, let me ask you this. The night that this happened, were you of sound mind and you were not on illegal narcotics? No, I understand, but you were high and complete another set of drugs. You said you don't do that. I'm just making sure that's what we're talking about. Okay.
Were you drunk?
The detectives continue to challenge Linda's perception of the events. They ask her if she was under the influence of drugs during the incident, and Linda reassures them that she was on prescribed medication, but denies any involvement with illegal drugs. This line of questioning continues to blur the line between truth and justification.
No.
Okay.
So you guys made this decision to do this, to put, like, how you just told us here, put your father out of his misery. You guys decided to do that together.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Okay. Let me ask you something. Would you like to chat with your sister?
I don't I'm chatting with my sister, of course not.
Okay. All right.
Well, like I explained to you, this is not, you are going to jail today, okay? And you are going to be arrested. All right?
Okay, but I do need my heart medicine.
Oh, no, we're not going to.
Yeah, this is.
I don't have it with me.
Okay.
I was going to pick it up at Publix.
The conversation takes a darker turn when Linda is told that she will be arrested. Despite the severity of the situation, Linda seems calm and even asks for her medication. The cold detachment she exhibits as she learns of her impending arrest highlights the unsettling nature of her actions and mindset. As Linda waits for her sister to be brought into the room, the tension is palpable. The detectives are keen to observe their interaction, suspecting that Linda's sister may have been the one who initiated the plan. They are hoping this conversation might reveal more about who truly masterminded the murder.
I have to give her some water because she's got some medication to take, so you guys have a little alone time there?
Personal. We know we did, and we did it for a reason. I told him why we did it. It doesn't matter what you tell that monster. I told the police when we did it. I told him why we did it. I told him I thought my father had dementia and he was getting worse every day. He was uncontrollable. And we had gotten a call with the lung cancer. It's true that none of it's a lie.
Linda describes how she and her sister had made the difficult decision to end their father's life, focusing on his suffering and deteriorating condition. Despite her rationalizations, it's clear that she struggles with the morality of their actions, yet still defends what they did as a merciful act.
My purse is in my car. They arrested me at work.
Oh, give me my purse. I mean, it's time for me to take my medicine. They have to let you take your heart medicine stuff. God's sakes. They asked me if I was on illegal drugs. I said,
Hey, on what?
illegal drugs. I don't take any illegal drugs. I'm just giving medicine. Fine.
Your medicine.
Okay. So we are on camera.
Of course you are. Are you stupid? And then you've been in prison.
Oh, I know it. Okay, just check. But he's not the one that did anything right now. Well, yeah. But here's a rap sheet on them. We do not.
Well, it's over now. Our lives are over. We're done. We're dead. You hate me that much? Well, you did. I can't breathe.
Kyle is having a stroke and die.
Do we get an attorney?
Can hire a loan or get one.
Okay.
We have your keys. Because of where your daughter works, we have to make contact with her. Okay?
Yes.
You want me to give her these keys? Is that okay or no?
Oh, yeah.
And these are your glasses, those are yours?
Okay, that's
So
fine.
this will go with your property.
That's it. Just because if she has to get access to anything or do whatever,
Okay.
she's a trustworthy person.
Where's the, I have Northern heartbeat. I could die if I don't have my medication.
The detectives inform Linda that she's about to be arrested, and she requests her heart medication, revealing the extent to which she's focused on her own survival. The situation continues to shift from moral reflection to practical concerns, showing Linda's preoccupation with her own well-being.
We're taking you to the jail now. We have a full hospital out the jail. Okay, we have doctors. They have every medication you can imagine. We spend millions of dollars a year on medications out there.
And I'm on blood pressure
Yeah.
too.
Okay,
Those are mine.
they will take care of you guys.
Those are-
I promise you. We have a building that's bigger than most hospitals out there. It's a medical facility.
Switch out costs.
Okay.
Okay.
Back and then I can just
Oh.
get mine when I get to the
They
gym.
administer drugs. They'll
That's
give you a full
fine.
checkup.
That's all perfect.
Okay.
Johnny prepared. So
And
Deputy Leader here is going to give you guys a ride.
So that's another thing he's got going for him.
Does my other daughter know you?
We're going to go talk to her. The detectives will.
No, we're
We're
on
gonna go
that.
talk to your daughter now. All right?
How about my daughter?
Your daughter?
Her husband is a criminal attorney.
Okay.
We need to speak to them. There's other people we need to speak with, so that'll be one of them also. So
As Linda prepares to face the consequences of her actions, the police take steps to ensure her medical needs are met. The cold reality of the arrest settles in, and Linda's thoughts turn to the future, both for herself and her family, knowing that her life will never be the same.
Sheriff Bob Galtieri calls it the perfect murder. Investigators initially ruled that 85-year-old Anthony Tomaselli died of natural causes. 4 years went by. No one suspected any foul play. That is until Sheriff Galtieri says one of that man's daughters ran her mouth about how her father actually died.
With Linda and her sister now facing the consequences of their actions, the interrogation concludes. Linda is charged with first-degree murder and sentenced to 20 years in prison, while her sister, Mary Beth, agrees to testify against her in exchange for a reduced sentence.
Tuesday, nearly 4 years later to the day, the sisters were arrested for killing their own father. Neighbors who knew Tony are shaken to the core.
A rag in his throat? That's a horrible way. I hope they rot in hell. God's gonna take care of them. The dear Lord up above knows.
During their interviews, detectives say that Linda Roberts and Mary Beth Tomaselli both admitted to killing their own father. Both are charged with first-degree murder.
This case ends with 2 lives irrevocably changed and the devastating truth of their father's death exposed. Their story serves as a chilling reminder of the complexity of family dynamics and the ultimate price of betrayal.